As we get started for the official start to the trading week, as yesterday was President's Day, so the market was pretty flat. We had a lot of up and down, nothing major. Few fake outs to either direction. But as of right now, what I'm still looking for XRP, if we start to fade here, we're going to continue to look at this back test area, and this could bring us all the way down to $1.34. However, what I would like to see happen if we're going to hold, and that's a little symmetrical we formed. I would like us to, at worst, and this is another scenario that could play out, which I wouldn't want to see that scenario. That could bring us down into yeah, we don't want to see that. But we look like we're on a head and shoulders. So we had taken the elevator up, and now it appears we're taking the stairs down. And all that means when you're in my community is we took the elevator up, we're taking the stairs down, if that's what happens. So you have shoulder, but it's flat because it's an elevator. Think of going up on the elevator. You don't have any steps on the way up. But if you have an elevator on the top, on the way up, you're going to take the stairs down if you go down. If you take the stairs up, you're going to take the elevator down, maybe a little flat here. In fact, we took the elevator up. We didn't have time for anything. We didn't have time for a retest. Once we got past that $1.45, we just said the hell with this. We got to $1.56 and as expected blew right past it to the 200-day. And unfortunately, with the way the market is shaped up, we need some help here by the bulls this morning. We need help in a hurry. And the fact that that filled out so predictably on an ABC corrective wave to the point that it hit the C wave on the exact day and candle that we predicted that we would hit that resistance. I didn't know it was going to hit that exact day on that exact 4-hour candle, but that is, when we talked about this a couple days ago, it was spooky. Like the fact that it hit on that exact candle, I don't even know if I've ever done anything that perfect. And I understand in 21, we called the bull market top and predicted the first big drop to 52 cents and ultimately sub 40 cents. But this to me seemed a little different because we did it in the moment, seen that descending wedge, seen the breakout potential, seen where a C wave could get us. And now it's like, do we not pay attention to that overtly and act like that didn't just happen? Now that we formed this little symmetrical triangle, it almost looks like, or you could say a descending triangle. That's what I was struggling with yesterday. It is slightly elevated, but in a descending triangle, you can have slight elevation here. So it's a little tricky here because if this breaks down, we're going right down to that dollar. I mean, we got to go to $1.40 and then it's probably going to retest $1.34 if it falls here. So if you're looking for some kind of volatile breakout in our favor, we need the volume now. Like, I'm not talking about tomorrow. I'm not talking about 2 hours from now. I'm talking about we need to change the trajectory now. Otherwise, it's going to be an ugly start today. Bitcoin's barely holding on to 68 right now. And it's well below that symmetrical triangle. And that's a bearish continuation pattern, unless we could have broke to the top side. But it's not showing the signs of breaking past there yet. That's a terrible looking chart right now. We need to get past there. This liquidity box, we have to get past. And right now, we're being siphoned off. It's almost like in the entire markets, there's a siphoning event happening. We had a long break. We talked about gold, silver, mining stocks might have a rough start to the day. I tried to warn about it last week before the Friday close. You know, we've talked about it for days. Gold, silver, mining stocks, platinum, all looks like it's on the downturn. I don't really care what Peter Schiff and everybody else says because I get criticized sometimes because they're, hey, you like Peter Schiff and he's saying it's only going up from here. I don't really care what he says, to be honest. I'm telling you both sides, not one side. I'm telling you the truth, not what I want you to hear. So we'll see what happens this morning. This is a very key level. We broke down the support structure initially, but we haven't given it away. The moment this breaks down at 73.48, 73.70, next target 69.63. Remember my $66 target all the way back here? We hit that on the drop there. And now this looks like a symmetrical triangle. Those are neutral continuation patterns, but it generally goes in the direction of the trend. Our trend right now would lead us down to like 40 bucks. Anywhere between $40 and $53 on silver. And a lot of people think it's nuts though, because we were at 120, but it's not. We had a all-time resistance at $53 or $50. After breaking an all-time resistance, I find it hard to believe that we're not going to come back down there ever and back test that huge, huge glaring and growing gap. So we'll come out here. We'll come out with some attention, some fire, some honesty, as always. And I would love to hear back and forth. I have a travel day today, so I'm doing this the best I can. Probably going to leave here around 11. Hopefully get back home before 3. My son's appointment yesterday, I appreciate all the kind words from everybody. Went about as good as it could go. He got his tube changed. Everything looked good. No granulation. He had a little bit of bleeding, which sometimes happens, sometimes doesn't. But I mean, it's in your intestines, so. But he didn't need to be sized up at all. His size was fine. He actually put on some weight. He's over 50 pounds now, which is great because when he first started this journey, he was in the bottom like 5% in weight. And now he's in the 65 percentile, I believe. So that's a hell of a move. So yeah, they were very happy. He did a great job. He was a little emotional because there was a kid who was much worse off than him, who was very loud. And my son's very averse to noise. But he got through it. He did a good job. I'm blessed that we got the attention we needed. I'm blessed that we're up at Children's Hospital in Cornwall and we get the attention from them. And yeah, I appreciate all the kind words. Silver's just pushed through that support now. And I mean, it's not going to be pretty. We talked about it on Friday. We talked about it on Saturday. We talked about it on Sunday. This is not going to be a pretty start to the week for precious metals if this continues. And it is continuing in a heart. And this is brutal. Silver's down 6%. First Majestic's down 6%. Fortuna's down 4.8 in pre-market. B2 Gold's down 3.7. Gold's down 3.77%. Platinum's down 3.5%, or 3.7. PLG's down 3.5. Silver's down 6.2%. Fortuna 4.8. First Majestic 6%. So that's gonna be an ugly start. They're ugly. Tomorrow we got the Fed minutes coming out. It's ugly. About as ugly as the start as we were expecting. Yeah, so I mean, I don't see anything different that changes my mind that we were talking about over the weekend, what we talked about yesterday. I'm eternally grateful for everybody who's part of the classes. I went back and watched the hour and 30 minutes or whatever it was yesterday, hour and 25, and it was spectacular. That was the best class by far. That 5th class hit the point, hit the mark. And if I can do it exactly like that, I'll be very happy going forward. I loved all 5 classes, but that one in particular, the way the participation was, the back and forth we had, it was excellent. But that's neither here nor there. And for the ones who stick around this morning, I know it's Tuesday morning. Nobody wants to hear bad news. My analytics are fucked this morning, excuse my French, because they just put out my live from last night 40 minutes before this live started. So the odds of this going through the algorithm without you guys hitting the like button or sharing is going to be impossible. With that being said, good morning. 9:03 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on this Tuesday, February 17th, 2026. I'm XRP Future Millionaire, and I reside in the great state of Michigan. And what a start to the day it is. What a start to the day it is, indeed, my friends. So we've got XRP sitting at $1.45.6, down 2.14%. And the most glaring issue we have this morning is XRP formed what looks to me, and I'm not going to call it a descending triangle. I'll call it a symmetrical triangle because we do have slight elevation. And I know it can be kind of elevated, but I still think this is a symmetrical triangle, like a neutral continuation pattern. You're absolutely up to your interpretation, what you want to call it. But unless we break bullish out of here and get past that 148, we're going right down to $1.40 and possibly right to $1.34 to see what kind of meeting point we have. If this is a head and shoulders, the elongated fashion here means the longer the consolidation, the wider the fall. So if this does break down, it's building a much bigger base to probably come down and invalidate $1.40 and go right to $1.34 if this plays out. That's the urgency here. If we don't want to have this catastrophe here to start the morning, this cannot be a bear flag. This could be a pennant flag, but this cannot be formed as that bearish consolidation. This has to be a fake out and then ultimately push us up out of here. Otherwise, it's going to be a disgusting start to the week. of an absolutely disturbing start to the week, if you want to be honest. And like I could make the argument, like I said yesterday, this is a symmetrical triangle. I mean, a descending triangle, because you could make the argument that that is actually a flat support with the way that this moved across with a little bit of over exaggeration here. You can make a case support, support, support. There's 3 flat hits, which whether you want to call it a symmetrical triangle, a descending triangle, they're both just as bearish. The only difference between a symmetrical triangle is its neutral continuation, which means it could go either or, but it generally finds the direction of the most current drop. The descending triangle, however, there is no speculation. That is bearish to the core. Absolutely bearish. So let me say hi to some of you because it's going to be an absolutely straightforward live because I got to go travel here. I got to get my stuff ready and I want to be out of here by 11. So it's going to take cooperation by the rest of the group, which hardly ever happens. I'm much faster than everybody else because I know what I want. Everybody else kind of labors. And, when you have that kind of mindset, it frustrates the hell out of you. But there's nothing you can do about it because not everybody's as dedicated or as on a schedule as you are. Some people are just, I'm going to go as slow as possible, or I don't really care what we face going forward. I'm trying to beat rush hour traffic home. I'd already be gone. If it was up to me, we'd already be halfway home by now. I'd have got up at 6. Well, I got up at 6:37, and I'd already be on the road. I'd be halfway home by now if it was just me. I'd probably have left at 4 a.m. so I could get home by now. Cannabis Podcast, welcome in. Thanks for being in Tom's Arm for over 1 year at the I Told You So Bad. Make sure to watch his channel, too. He's ever growing on holistic healing, the medicinal values of cannabis, and so on and so forth. It's a true blessing to have him. So go take a look. Jay from Mix, good morning. Thanks for being in Tom's Arm for your first month with the emoji badge of me being abducted by aliens. All the world stage, thank you. Crypto Plumber, Mrs. Stott, Mr. Stott, for being in Tom's Arm 6+ months with the XRP Predictor, along with Crypto Plumber, Poppy Lou, and William Hayes as well. And David Huff, all in Tom's Arm 6+ months with the XRP Predictor. 2 Ravens, thanks for being in Tom's Arm for over 2 years with the XRP 589 Moon Badge. Ben Graham, good morning, my friend. CJ2 Pilot, good morning, and thanks for being in Tom's Arm over 2 years with the XRP 589 Moon Badge. MQ, very trusted mod in this community, as he wears the shield proudly. Good morning to you, my brother, and thank you so much for all your valuable information. I mean, in Tom's Arm 3+ months with the XP Meteor. It's absolutely beautiful to be able to bounce ideas off of you and Nick and many others. James McCurney, welcome in, and thanks for being a very valued member in this community. And good morning, my friend. Edgar, good morning, says, good morning, Tom. Best class ever. Oh, I appreciate that. I'm so glad to see you back, Edgar. So glad to see you back. Crypto Cooter, another very trusted mod in this community, wears the shield proudly and in Tom's Army for over 1 year with the I Told You So badge. Love it, my brother. Thank you so much for your continued support. Juan, good morning, and thanks for being in Tom's Army for over 1 year with the I Told You So badge. Good morning, friend. The other Adam, good morning, friend. Mark Smith, welcome in, and thanks for being in Tom's Army 3+ months with the XP Meteor. XRP John Hall, welcome in, brother. Always glad to see you in here. Always glad to see you in here. It's like yesterday when you first joined the community, and now we're like, several years, and it's craziness. So XRP right now is struggling to garner any kind of positive attention here. Any kind of positive attention. Mrs. Stott liked the class as well. I love it. I love it. Edgar says 82 cent first. It is very possible if this falls out to go down into those lower areas. Even if we look at the all-time cup and handle to kind of try to draw a conclusion if it were to break. We're still watching XDC, however, to see how it reacts. So let's just make sure it falls out before we, count our chickens and blessings. How the chicken hasn't even found its mate. Anyhow, this is the descending wedge that it seems to me is forming. Now, the thing is we've never come down to that third tap of support. This isn't close enough for me. So either it's going to come down into here and ride it. It could come all the way to 69. It could come all the way, remember Nick's 62? It could, in fact, fill this all the way out into the apex area and get down into Nick's area. It could go farther. It could come down to if I was being like, okay, how far could this, worst case scenario, Tom, worst freaking case scenario, where does this go? If we go all the way to the apex and we take this all the way until the end of August of 26, that's 56.8 cents. So That's how far in a bullish cup and handle you could technically come into the mid 50-cent range and still be extremely bullish and complete a reset from a head and shoulders pattern. You got shoulder, head, shoulder. It's right there, plain as day. Like they say in Willy Wonka, it's right there, black and white, clear as day. You get nothing, you lose. Good day, sir. And that's what's going to happen if this breaks down. We get nothing if this breaks this formation. Now that tells you, though, you've got an opportunity in this all-time cup and handle, unless it breaks out of that descending wedge, which honestly, if this pattern's trying to confirm, you don't go without 3 hits on a descending wedge. You just don't. So support 1, support 2, not close enough in my opinion. Not close enough in my opinion. Resistance 1, resistance 2, resistance 3. Waiting for support 3, breakout of 4th tap. 70% of the move should get us somewhere around mid-May. So basically when I come back out here in May, May 8th, I'll be out here. We should be talking about this in a different trajectory if it continues this consolidation and down. Right now in the weekly, we do have an optic. Until $1.40 breaks, we're above the 200-day. Or $1.38, which is where I got that $1.38 low level. But $1.40 in reality, as long as we're above that $1.40, we're above that 200-day. It's like $1.40 and some change, $1.41. But I like that $1.40. You break that, you're in trouble. Because that's going to open up the door to better than 25 to 40% drop. That's how close we are to breaking this wall. I mean, we are so close. If we went down to 56 cents, let me just tell you, we would have to open up the piggy bank. If it goes down to 56 cents, you have to open the piggy bank. Now, what we're watching this morning outside of XRP is obviously XDC up 4.75% versus the XRP pairing. But again, no matter how much positivity we want to put into these charts, look where we're at. We've got to get outside of this. Now, the good news with this is, could we say we're in an ascending triangle? Support, slightly higher, slightly higher. Some are saying that this is the ascending triangle. Could be a rising triangle. I don't know. Would it be a rising wedge? I don't know. It doesn't necessarily. That's debatable. Because technically you have a high, slightly higher high, slightly higher high. But not too over elevated though, because 37.9 or 379, 378. I mean, that could be an ascending triangle. If it is, that's a bullish continuation pattern. And the cool thing about XDC, what if everything did drop and XDC still hasn't finished its C wave? Think about that. Right now it's elongating out, but it hasn't finished that C wave. Unless it just breaks it down. And could that mean that if XDC is still going to go up, does that mean XRP, instead of being in a 3-wave corrective, maybe it goes 5? Well, we talked about it yesterday and we expanded it out for a purview of what could happen, but we have to not break this support. You have to not break that support. Because what you want to see then, if this is a 5-wave, and we'll do a very jank rendition of this on the other chart, just so it's easier to see. We'll do a jank rendition that anybody can understand, no matter what. We'll do an A, B, C, D, E. How about that? So boom, boom. So if we started here, we went boom, boom, boom. Now, if this happens to be a corrective on the inverse head and shoulders back test, then you would end up doing, well, maybe not there. I would say realistically, you're going somewhere between $1 and $1.77, possibly all the way up to that 202 because it's over the top. That would be your furthest possibility. But I would say more realistically, you'd be aiming for that $1.70 to $1.77. So are we doing something like that? And this would be the last of the support retest before a further break? Could be. We very well could be. Extremely oversold. We're putting in that double bottom right now. It looks like in the stochastic, we just got to come down a little bit more, which does warrant a further push down if it doesn't hold. So either this is a 3-wave corrective wave, ABC, like we identified before the push out of the descending wedge, or somehow we have to, oh my God, that's so funny. 589. Isn't that kind of funny? Well, 58.9 cents on May 8th, right? It's kind of a running joke here. That's why I have the 589 moon badge. Everybody thought it was going to $589, but when I put that second year badge out, I said we'd be at 58.9 cents that year, and we actually went down to there that year, which was kind of ironic. The badge did its job. So yeah, that's what we're facing with. I'd love to hear what you guys say. Chile, if that's what we're waiting for, then whales will want much lower prices before sending it. It's true. Where's the volume magically going to come from? Right now, I have no idea. If you're talking about when we get down to 56 cents, you'll find volume. If you come down there, I guarantee it. You'll find, even if it's minute volume, to have a unbelievable retracement from the drop down, you'll find volume. You will definitely find volume. We got a lot of shuffling of viewers this morning. I would encourage you guys to stay. If you came in here before work this morning, there's simply no reason to leave. I mean, I don't know where else you're going to find this information unless you go pay somebody. And even then, they're not going to have the right information. They'll have your money, your currency, your crypto. But from a standpoint of, you don't have to pay nothing for this. Just come in here and watch. Good morning, Carl, and thanks for being Tom Zorn for over 1 year with the I Told You So badge, along with It's All an Illusion. It seems like they'd make it really hard for retail to buy down there. What a wick we'd see. It wouldn't be a wick. If it goes down to 56 or 52 or 86 or 62, it's not going to be a wick. Traditional bottoms don't form on quick wicks. When you have a real bona fide bottoming structure, you very rarely have a quick wick. That was the interpretation everybody made when XRP came down in 23. Oh, it's going to be a quick wick. And that's what everybody says. But in 2023, it took 3 months for that bottom to complete forming. So you had 3 months to buy it as it went from 28 to 44, back down to 32, back up to 56, back down to 36, back up to 90, back down to 38. Like, there was a lot of time as that bottom was forming between 28 and 38 to buy in that bottoming structure. It was the better part of 6 to 9 months, and then the better part of over a year and a half when it finally came back down to 38 cents. So bottoming structures are not meant to be quick Vs, especially when they're in a 70, 80, 90% sustained downturn. You very rarely, if ever, just see, we came well, that's not a good example, but imagine we came from 350 like we did, or 370. You very rarely will come straight down. And think about this. Look how far we have to go to get down there. No, we're not there yet. Imagine we come all the way down here. The odds of us just in 2 seconds coming like this and then never holding it again, very slim to do something like that. Generally, what happens is you do this, you get a huge spike back up to the main resistance, which could be 86, could be $1, and then it comes down and shuffles, and then it starts to straddle out. You also have the scenario where you would do this, and then you could sink down again and put this inverse head. Like, you get stuff like that too. So I don't necessarily worry about a quick wick. I don't mind. I don't worry about that, because 95% of the time when you have a 70% or more drop, you don't get quick wicks. You do when you have the October 10th liquidity hunt. That's how you get quick wicks, and everybody gets tricked by that. That's just because we had the first initial capitulation down. So now you have to have the retracement back up from everybody who took out shorts and everybody who took out, and all the covered from the calls and all that good stuff. So that happens by design. But after, we're falling back into that trajectory of what's really going on. There's no way that's all the likes there is. This must not have updated. If that's all the likes, I would be embarrassed for us this morning. Okay, that's better. 69 out of 109 is definitely a lot better than 16 out of 110. I thought like 16% of you were hitting the like button. That doesn't get the job done. Just me showing up, even if I was mute and didn't say anything and had a black screen, should get 16 out of 100 likes. Anyhow, you do realize when you guys are watching, even after, when you watch, if you hit that like button, that is what YouTube uses with their algorithm. Even the comments aren't as important on YouTube. It's all purely on the likes for the most part. Comments help, but there's so much spam on YouTube. Who the fuck knows what the real comment is? Their algorithm can't pick it up. We need to hit that like button. That's how we get people in here. YouTube doesn't care unless there's some positive engagement. Hell, you can hit the dislike button. Is there still a dislike? Hit the dislike. Counts just the same as long as you're putting your input. If you hate what I'm doing, hit the dislike. Whatever. Happens. There's always a critic everywhere, remember? Always a critic. And you need the critics because the critics make you realize how important the genuine ones are. See? Okay. So, I mean, if that's a descending triangle, that makes it a little more urgent because then there's not the symmetrical nature where it could go either way. Even though it usually follows the trend, a descending triangle just goes with the trend. It doesn't say, hey, 90% of the time. No, a descending triangle is pretty much there to tell you you're screwed. And we've lost all hope in the area. Unless we find some kind of volume that pops in here and keeps it from falling here. I mean, this target's on a drop here about $1.38. I think it's a perfect area to target out of a fallout here if it does. Remember on Friday when I was Sunday when I was driving here and XRP was at $1.55, $1.54, and I said by the time I get to Grand Rapids, I expect us to be at about $1.45 to $1.46. And when I got to Grand Rapids, we were at $1.46, and I looked at it and said, "Uh-oh, it's doing exactly what the thesis is saying." So if you keep following the thesis, we got no choice but to follow it into maybe into a weird spot. So tomorrow, what you need to be aware of is the Fed minutes. Is it the Fed minutes or is it the Fed? Ah, crap. I can't remember which one they're doing tomorrow. Yeah. So minutes from the January 2026 meeting are awaited on February 18th, which is tomorrow. Also, Michaela's 19th birthday. Where the heck does the time go? When I moved in with them, or they moved in with me, I should say. That was on February, or that she was 7. And Scarlett was 1, and now Scarlett turns 13 this year, and Michaela's 19, and almost done with their first year in the honors program at Western. Craziness. But anyhow, we're waiting the January Fed minutes, the minutes report from January 26th, and that'll be tomorrow. Market is anticipating the potential rate cuts following a pause. So what we're looking for tomorrow is we're looking for a hint that we're going to cut rates. Any kind of hint. They hint at that, it could be a good thing. Crypto Fear and Greed Index at 10, dropped from 12 yesterday, which is good. We know we went down to 5 not too long ago, which took out the low, which is unbelievably awesome. Well, I mean, at least hit the low of all times, which is what we were looking for. Let's look at the heat liquidation map. Heat liquidation map. See if I can find the right one. Ah, good start. I found the right one on the very first shot. Look at that. It's going to be a good day. I like to look at it in the monthly perspective. A 4-week running, kind of a running algorithm is good. Look at all that liquidity over the top. Isn't that something? Isn't that something? It's definitely got a lot of potential over the top. But remember, if we come down too far, all that disappears anyhow because people will sell out. See, if you have shorts, after you go down too far, they're not going to keep it open. So by virtue, some of this would disappear if we come down too far. And too far would probably be one more drop down. Because then Bitcoin's going to go into that mid 50K range. And I can't imagine all these people are going to keep all those shorts open if we got down, to a mid 50K. If we look at it in the 3 monthly, little bit of volume starting to creep up here, but not a lot. Not a lot. Now, if we can try one time to get this into the 6 month, it's probably going to freeze even in the 3. It's so jank. It's going to say, oh, we crashed. But we might be able to get to the 6 before it crashes here. Let's put it down here. I know anybody who's in here knows how jank this chart is to try to get into the 6 month. I think they do that on purpose. See? Then you have to hope and pray one time it shows it for a split second because it just keeps crashing out. It happens every single time. It's amazing. Yeah, there's a shitload of liquidity adding up over 98 all the way up to 120. Somebody would argue that that was a cup way up there, but because we came down so far, I'm not sure that that identifies as a cup anymore. Now it just looks like a sustained downtrend with the three peak tip. Every single time we come back up, you had one, two, three, and then it dropped, tried to run back up, hit the resistance, came right back down, and it peaks every time. It just can't make any kind of progressive stand here. Let's get back in the monthly. We'll look at Ethereum, take a look at XRP, just to see a general understanding of what's building this morning. I always find it remarkable how many people leave when I show the heat map. Like, what? Is that not good enough information? You don't want to see where all the clusters are? You don't want to understand how to trade deeper than just looking at your chart? Do I need to come in here wearing a top hat screaming La Lollapalooza? Ethereum's got at 2100 a lot of liquidity, 2150. But we've also got right underneath. So it's like, what's the path of least resistance? So you got a lot of liquidity underneath that 1800 to 1900 zone, just like you've got a lot of liquidity around this 2100 to 2200 zone. So a little more over the top, no doubt. But we definitely could take out this lower area first if that's what we're trying to do. And then for XRP, before the entire audience leaves, since we lost 8% of the audience while I'm showing you the heat liquidation. I always like to talk about the numbers because you can get a generalized, unified understanding of why retail fails just by watching the numbers and see which zones they leave in. You give them good information, people leave. You FUD them up and they stay. Wait a minute, I'm doing it wrong. I should be FUDing you guys up all day. Then you won't leave. $1.30, $1.31, 2, 3, 4. All in this area, there's some liquidity. Biggest pocket is up here at about $1.98. And yeah. And that gets you up to the resistance over the top. However, the technical target, if this breaks down, we already know the symmetrical target or the descending triangle, if that's what it is. That'll bring you down to this liquidity pocket, zero question. And then it would be up to us. Are we going to hold it or are we just going to break down if it comes down there? So a lot to be determined here on this Tuesday morning. Consider this the Monday morning trading session right now. I'm going to blow my nose real quick. But consider this the Monday morning trading session. All right, thank you for your patience. The good news is this room is locked, so like when I leave, I don't have to worry about someone walking in here. I just have to use my card. But I hope this is making sense this morning. I know there's a lot. Juan says, what is crazy is with the amount of products like ETFs and such, people believe that Bitcoin price is based on 21 million Bitcoin and more instruments more synthetic Bitcoin get created. Absolutely. That's a fantastic understanding, Juan. That's awesome. I need more RAM on my. Why do I need more RAM on my computer? What do you mean? On my tablet, I got plenty of RAM. I don't need no more RAM. Why would I need more RAM to run the 6 month? It just generally crashes. I have a lot of memory on here. Honestly, I could open up the virtual memory more, but I don't like to have a lot of outside things open at once. It takes away from the demand. But I can run hella good stuff on this. You know, if it can't open a simple chart like that, but I can play Fortnite or I can play, high end games, graphically, that it's an issue. I think it could be the RAM though. I didn't even think about. Maybe I should open up the virtual memory now that I'm thinking about what you're saying. Because then it would allow it to have an extension opened up deeper. You know what? I'm gonna try that. I'm gonna open up the RAM because I keep it at 4 gigs. I can open it up to 8 or 10. Interesting. I'm gonna take your word. I'm gonna try that. Who said that? Mike. Who said that? Mike. Yeah, Mike. I'm gonna try that. Mike Beanie. Thank you for that suggestion, my friend. Mike says, what about the institutional volume? Who is accumulating the majority of tokens? If a billion come out each month, are we still eating the billion or are we just skimming the krill the whales miss? I think you are a little more on the money than you might even think. Something that I complain about every single month. And the fact that the whales, everybody's like, oh, the whales, when they buy, they're buying it from the exchange. No, they're not. We already know that that's false. That's fake. That's a facade. That's the fugazi. The fugazi on the retail is that we think that the whales and institutions are buying at the price of $1.45 right now. What we learned in the redactments, we don't know the price, but we learned in the official documents in 2023 when the case was in full swing, is that in fact there's a price for institutions and there's a price for retail, and there was 2 lines to know to do it. The only thing that was redacted was the price of both. So if they would have just showed us what retail was paying in this moment when they were doing that, and then what institutions were paying, it would have answered a lot of questions. However, they redacted that so that retail could not see that information. And to me, that was a slap in the face by Ripple, because they equally wanted that redactment because they didn't want us, the retail, to know what they were allowing institutions to buy for. Imagine if we were paying 75 cents and retail's paying 10. Imagine if we're paying $1.45 today and they're paying like 30 cents. That's the truth. Imagine what we'd be thinking. Oh, you mean this whole time we're buying at 35 cents in this bear market and they're buying at 7 or pennies on the dollar or fractional pennies? Or instead of buying XRP like SBI did, they did not buy any. In fact, they put $10 billion into Ripple Labs, which meant they have a 9% stake in Ripple Labs. I'd rather have a stake in Ripple Labs than hold the XRP token, and I love XRP. But give me the damn stake in Ripple Labs where the real valuation comes from. So that's always been my issue. The whole issue is when you're putting 1 billion tokens into the ecosystem, even if you lock up 800 million, 200 million find the market, and then in December of 28, every single token that gets relocked up can be allocated any way Ripple sees fit. So for all we know, Ripple's playing this game until 28, the long game, and then they're going to get rid of a bunch of tokens, and it's going to hemorrhage the price. That's one way to look at it. You got all these tokens locked up until December of 28, and we're talking about all these institutions are going to come in by 28. Wasn't it kind of ironic that all those locked up tokens can be separated and divided and given any way they see fit? What if the whales are buying for years and then in the December of 28, that unlock goes to the people who have been buying secretly all this time? They're buying in for X, Y, and Z because it doesn't even matter the price. It's all profit to them anyhow when it gets released onto the market. It's no different than the US dollar being printed and its value is, let's just say it's at 100 pairing. It's not today. It's at like 97. And then they print off another $1 billion. And then the next month, another $1 billion and another $1 billion and another. Before you know it, the strength of the dollar is going down by virtue because we're artificially inflating the supply. It's not just take out escrow dump of 1 billion and say U.S. Fed adds $1 billion of the U.S. circulating supply. That's all you need to do. And then, they took 800 million out and relocked it back up to do it again next month. Well, they added 200 million to the supply. And keep doing that over time. You're inflating it artificially. That's going to, by virtue, make the price go down. The value of our dollar purchasing power go down. We don't see it in nominal terms because the dollar bill is still a dollar bill. The 5 is still a 5. The 20 is still a 20. The 50, the 100, and so on and so forth. But a dime's not a dime. A nickel's not a nickel. Hell, a penny's not even a penny because they said the copper was too expensive. So that's why I look at these cycles different than most. Most people I need to buy and hold on forever no matter what. I say that is the fugazi, the fugazi. The truth is you buy and time the market properly. You don't ever hold the risk asset out of cycles ever. People can tell you whatever they want. I mean, I don't care. They can. Um, but if you make $50,000 on a trade and you write it back down to even, and then you make another 50, and then you write it back to even, and then you make 10,000, well, you just cost yourself 100 grand. You could have been in and out based on cycle. And some are like, well, I can't understand the cycle. Then learn. I teach classes. You can simply come here every single day and know what's going on. I've literally given you the blueprint today, and you don't have to do anything. You can just simply take a picture of this and see which way it breaks. If it falls through that support, big trouble. If it breaks the resistance, go into $1.56. And there's not much more to this. If it breaks here at $1.47, $1.48, we should be going right back to $1.56. Try to retest that descending triangle breakdown for a third time. And the problem is the one time we went all the way to $1.65 and we could not hold $1.56 as support. That's brutal. Then we come back down and get drained into the liquidity box, get rejected at the liquidity box. And now that could open up the door to a 9.6% move down at that rejection at $1.50. So I always tell everybody, excuse me for not coming in all bullish as hell when it looks like this, you know? I want to know the truth. I wish more people would tell the truth. I do, because then I wouldn't be on an island. I know more people know what's going on than act like it. But I have realized in society, if you act stupid, if you just act like a moron, people will watch. Look at all the popular people. Either the women are showing their asses, showing their tits. You know, the guys are acting stupid as hell. Duh, I didn't know the cart could go through a square door. I didn't know if I put a hole in this tire, it would go flat. I mean, it's the stupid shit that people watch. But you tell them what they can use. They're like, I don't want to know about this. This is dumb. It's the societal. Our society is in such bad shape. A dime bag is still a dime bag, though. True enough. Except, you know, back in the day, having to go to Detroit, knocking on random houses or trying to find, you know, the Mexican brickweed, the garbage, the regs, and charging 125, they're charging you 150 back in the day. If you're lucky, 100. Maybe if you could find the right connection downtown, the scarier the area, the cheaper the price. Might get it for 50, 75, but then it's really turning into stems and the beaners. I'm not talking about the Mexicans. But now you buy a fire bag, which is probably filled with chemicals, and that's why it's so much cheaper. But the medicinal stuff, and you're buying it for the same price as those shit regs that had literally a bunch of twigs and seeds. People are always like, oh, it costs so much more money now, does it? Or is our dollar just shit? Quality's not going up. In fact, the quality's going down, which means that things are not as expensive as they used to be. We just don't have the purchasing power. Which means if we actually had proper purchasing power, things would be a hell of a lot cheaper. But our purchasing power is trash. We have none. That's why you have to have gold and silver when it's the right time. I always encourage my audience not to buy tops. Not to buy well into the run. Like you should have been buying gold and silver between 16 and 2000 in this community. Silver between 17, even up to 25, 27. Not 73, not 85, not 96, not 110. Because the pure honesty is if you buy it at the wrong time, now all of a sudden you give away purchasing power. The last thing we can afford to do in this society is to give away our purchasing power. And anybody who bought silver at one time, I hate to break it to you, you've given away 40% of your purchasing power. Literally overnight. With gold, you've given away like 15% or 20% overnight. You don't want to give away purchasing power. That's the game. That's why the facade of long hold, never selling, but precious metals I don't sell. I just accumulate in the right areas because I'm never selling them. It's not a risk to me. That's something that'll be there for the next generation. That's called a generational tactic, and you learned that in the class. We talked about it yesterday, in fact. You have a generational tactic, which means instead of me buying a trade for the short term, I'm buying it not just for me. I'm buying an asset that I know is going to appreciate over time, aka to the next person in the bloodline. Bitcoin is just free falling right now this morning now. 67,500. We've got the Dow up 80. We've got WTI down 1.16%. We've got Murphy's down 1.5, North Oil down about 0.4. On the open, platinum is down 2.48%. Well, that's the futures. Regular platinum, that's about the same, 2%. PLG down 5.2 on the open. Gold's down 3.3. B2 Gold down 3.7. Silver's down 5%. First Majestic down over 6% on the open. Fortuna about 5.5%. Ethereum under 2,000, healthy now by about 1.2%, about 1.25% below 2,000. Bad sign. Bitcoin's under 68K now by over about $500. XRP lost $1.45, quickly hemorrhaging itself. So we'll see where this finds itself. But I hope none of you came in here surprised. I hope you guys are in here being fully engaged and you actually want to know what's going on. And I know most of you do. It's not possible to get so many people in here, even in bad moments. Like when we used to be red like this, we'd get 50 people in here. Now it's 117. And literally, I'm stunned because my live from yesterday just posted right when this live was about to start, which is horse shit. They decided to post a live yesterday right after I did my short this morning, which I can't imagine the short's doing any good with that happening. Let's take a look. I mean, it could be worse. It's got 598 views in the first hour and 12 minutes. Could definitely be worse. Plus, I'm doing the live, but we have 49,700 exactly. Somebody subscribed during this live, and we got the 49,700. Much appreciated. We worked our way back through at the 200 people unsubscribed when I talked about how we were the bearish rejection at $1.65. I lost 200 people that day. Can you believe that? It was actually like 186. And it was dead on accurate. That ABC hit 100% to the nuts, and I lost 200 people. You know, it kind of sucks. But it's still, I mean, it tells you what you need to know. Joseph Euler, thanks for being in Tom's Army for over 1 year at the I Told You So badge and gifting a sub. Zokarian, welcome into Tom's Army, receiving a gifted sub. Now in Tom's Army for... No, it doesn't tell me what the hell is that. What is this? How do I know what month it is? It doesn't tell me what month. Huh. Well, I don't know, Zulk. I'm going to assume it's your first month because I don't remember you having a badge next to your name when I've seen you before. So welcome into Tom's Army, friend. October of 2017 was the only 17th we didn't crash lower. Interesting. Very interesting. So let me ask you a question. Are any of you surprised this is happening on Tuesday morning, or have you been well informed that this could happen? I mean, I do my best to try, but now, like I said, I want to watch XDC and see if all of a sudden XDC is an outlier here. Because remember, it went up, shoulder, head. Is this just a shoulder being formed, which it very well could be here? And if it is, we're topping out pretty quickly. So let's just see what happens here. Because if the rest of the market is done, I find it hard to believe that XDC, unless it's front running what's to come. Let's take a look real quick. And this is scary when you look at it like this, though. But you know, we gotta do what we gotta do. Is there a rising wedge now formed? You tell me. At the back end of this, cut it off here. Did it form some kind of weird wedge now? And I can look at it and show you. See that resistance? See this wick? And then you break it up. Wick? Son of a bitch. Come on, TradingView. Fucking with me. Is there something going on here that we need to discuss that is topping it out, or is this going to be our validation that we're going to break out? That's all. That's the area. So we're stuck in this liquidity box within a deeper liquidity box, I would say. So let's just see this breakout 372 and then start pushing up to this top side. Honestly, I'm going to get rid of this. This has to stay. Because this is going to lead us into a directional tug here for the rest of the market once we finish out this clear out. Which means if XDC is holding, we can push up. That means we could, that $1.40 to $1.38 extending down would come into play. And if we can hold that $1.38 to $1.40 and XDC is giving us a gift and telling us we're going to go up, well, then we could look at it. However, if XDC is just sticking with our emotions right now, and in fact, this is a rising wedge that formed here at the back end with that last resistance tap just now on that wick, we got further issues, and we're going to find that out very, very, very quickly. And I expect this to be very volatile when I get home. I would expect this to be super volatile. And it's not a surprise. Every time I travel for my son, it's always volatile during the trip. There's no in between. On the way here, we had a big drop down, consolidated during the weekend, and now on my way back in about an hour and 15. Hopefully, they're going to be ready when I get done. But I could still see them not doing anything yet. And then, YouTube always plays games. It sure does. It sure does. How long have we been on? 51 minutes already. Wow. I realized it was almost 10 o'clock. I'm like, how long? There's no way. Time sure does fly when you're having fun, doesn't it? Not looking forward to the car ride home, though. But it has to be done. V-chain down 3.6%. We talked about low support yesterday. If it's going to hold, it would have to come down here. That 45-minute, though, is trash. Absolute trash. Do you remember the bearish divergence we seen on some of the charts? We had price appreciating, price dropping from resistance to support. This is going to be a poor way to look at it, but we had in the daily and a lot of things. Just overhyped here. Like, we're seeing such severe rejections right now. I'm almost mind-boggled that not a lot of people are paying attention to what's going on. Like, I almost get disgusted sometimes because not nobody, but a lot of influencers, what are we doing it for clout? Could be a descending wedge, but as we've seen with some others, they just broke down. Man, I'm still interested to see if XDC breaks this down or breaks out. I'm so interested in this moment. I want to see something break the structural breach. And the fact that XDC consolidated and didn't push up all the way through that wave maybe gives you hope, but it's going to have to force this not being a rising wedge here in the immediate short term. XRP's got about 2.5% here. We're breaking down the support, not a surprise. That was a bearish consolidation. We've talked about it for the better part of a week, it feels like. And then it signs me out of the computer, whatever. I'm about done anyhow because I got to get going. I'm going to put the comments on my tablet. Screw the computer. Yeah, there's not a lot of volume anywhere. Most are too busy trying to survive. I agree with that. But when you're just trying to survive, you've got to be even more informed. The best survival strategy is to be the most informed you can be. Can we agree on that? So to not be informed is an excuse that we create to ourselves so that we don't take blame. I used to do it myself all the time in trading. Thank you, Carl, for being in Town Center for over 1 year with the I Told You So badge. That's why I come here every single day since March 24th of 2021, which seems crazy now. That I'm a month away from having 5 straight years of doing this programming without a day off. Iran fired a missile. That's the catalyst we're waiting for. If that's the case, that's a catalyst. We talked about this before. The emergence of war would not be good. So, but I want to see if we break down the $1.40 to $1.38. Had to snap out of my head and change. Same here, Carl. When I talk about what's not good trading strategy, I was the king of not good trading strategy for a long time. They call it trial and error, which is needed. But it still was no fun, especially in the moment. Now I love every single loss I had, every single stupid decision like Bagelgate and buying a junior miner when I knew other miners were better because I wanted to make as much money as possible. I know how stupid I was at times. Not understanding charts, not understanding the news related to how the during military exercise, Iran temporarily closed the Strait of Hormuz for live fire drills. Iran test fires missiles during war games and show of strength before U.S. nuclear blah blah blah. Iran-U.S. tension live updates. Tehran says agreement reached on guiding principles of deal after Geneva talks. Iran-U.S. tension, the second round of talks between the U.S. and Iran, mediated by Oman, concluded on Tuesday, calling the talks constructive. Iran's foreign minister said that guiding principles of nuclear deal were reached. Okay, so we're not going to incinerate each other today? That doesn't sound good. That just sounds like a bunch of bullshit. I'm not. Anyhow, I'm going to go. I got to get ready to travel back. Just please pay attention. Pay attention to all of this because it's free falling right now. So we need to see how far. And unfortunately, MQ, this is exactly what we were talking about Saturday. This exact scenario, or Sunday, when we were talking Sunday night, this is the exact scenario we were talking about could play out. And that would be a head and shoulders, a fake out, and then we'd start finding ourselves towards 66 floor, or back down towards this level. Whew. Dominance is falling out too. Look at that. And we said, if that doesn't break out and it falls down, I find it hard to believe that Bitcoin just falling unabated. Because you know what the scary part is? Bitcoin dominance has gone down by 0.5%, right? XRP's down more than Bitcoin. Most cryptos are down more than Bitcoin. So we'll see. This is your identifiable moment this morning. Have a blessed day. I'll update everybody when I get home so you know that I made it safe. And I'll probably do a short upon arriving home just so that we'll get an update and you guys will be able to know that I'm home. Don't know if I'll be able to do a live tonight. It all depends on my son, how the travel goes. I plan on it, especially if we're extremely volatile. But Michigan plays tonight, and I'm not missing it at 6:30 against number 7 Purdue. We're at Purdue, and we're number 1. Michigan's number 1 officially yesterday. In basketball, the new rankings came out, and then on Saturday we play number 3 Duke. So we have to play number 7 Purdue at Purdue today. And then we have to play Duke on Saturday. So it's going to be a tough stretch. Number 7 and number 3, and 7 on the road. So that could be rough. Yeah, we could see $1.40 today. The expectation would be, since we fell out so violently, could we come back up and retest $1.45 real quick? We could. But I'm expecting all the way down to $1.38 even possibly. You know, and the farther we go down, is this even possible, MQ? Like maybe it would be a corrective into this, and this would be the last sustainable D way. I'm just doing it as A, B, C, D, E instead of a 1 through 5, because this reminds me more corrective A through E. But that would be your only hope, is if you did something like that, and then it would shoot out into that $1.70 range. However, with what I'm seeing right now, do I expect that to happen? No. No, I still like the 3-wave we have set up. I still like it how we have it set up. How we had that 3-wave and the fact it hit it perfectly. That looks like a head and shoulders. Looks like it should dive us down. $1.38 is the technical drop from here roughly. So with that being said, thank you. Blessings. And I'll see some of you in the Telegram, because I'll talk in the Telegram during travel like I did before. Especially if I see conversation that warrants it. But other than that, have a blessed day. Don't forget to give thanks to your Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, Yahweh, Yeshua, Emmanuel, and ask for God's grace. We pray for Mighty Marcus, Bearded Vikings, not just their overall mental stability, but Mighty Marcus continues to fight the good fight. We need Bearded Viking to have as much mental strength as possible while he expands his working and helps provide for his son during these strenuous times. We ask for your guidance. Amen. Can I get an amen before I leave? Amen. Get an amen? Love an amen. Love an amen for Mighty Marcus and Bearded Viking. God is present within our actions when more than one speaks and believes in the word. Amen. That makes me feel good on the way out. since I feel so good on the way out. We haven't done this in a while, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, when it's tough out there, we don't know what's going to happen. When the morale is going down, I know what time it is. Do you know what time it is? Ladies and gentlemen, the sunny days are here again. Oh, sunny days. Oh, what a day. Oh, sunny days. Oh, what a day. I wear glasses 'cause I can't see a motherfucking thing. Happy days. Oh, happy days. Oh, what a day. Oh, happy days. Oh, what a day. XRP will reign supreme. Let's just not get caught in the FUD. Oh, we're gonna crash, but we can't and we will. Wait a minute, what is this red? We can't crash. No, we won't. We can, we will, we won't, we can, and we did, and we won't, and we will, and we did, and we didn't, but we did, but we can't. But Tom, I swear we can't go under it. But we did, but we can't, we can, and we will. Yeah. Stay true. Stay blessed. Bitcoin, the biggest Ponzi of all times. One might say if you buy Bitcoin, you may become the pansy. Oops. Is that not politically correct these days? Gay, happy. Happy. We're so happy. But anyhow, listen. Be blessed. Be happy. Be gay.